back to the hybrid playbook that they had almost abandoned a few years ago. And that is really the requirement. To meet certain of the certain CO2 standards, you will have to have a certain amount of hybrids if you can't sell enough EV vehicles. So some of them are reopening those playbooks. And of course, to your point, with demand slowing for EVs, in the short term, it's not too bad because they don't need to spend as much capex. They're slowing down some of their production ramp-ups and making a lot of money on trucks that are, traditional gasoline engines. So near term, it's not going to show up in the numbers too much, but I think we worry about what this means for the competitive gap between the traditional automakers and the incumbents who've taken over, like BYD and Tesla. So those competitive challenges, I think, will just intensify beyond the next 2 years. So we might not see it in the numbers in the next couple of years.
But in the near-term list of risks, compounding all of their woes, is the port strike as well. How much might that affect some of the automakers who either import their parts from overseas, they might even import the finished vehicles from overseas, or do you feel that inventories are robust enough to be able to offset that?
Right, so I'll say, look, it's a little early to say, but yes, if it is a prolonged strike, that will have an impact on auto sales. But it may not be too bad because it's going to actually help inventories. Remember, from the rating standpoint, when we think about the credit stories, we focus a lot on how disciplined the auto industry is going to be in the US. Will they keep overproducing? Will they align with demand? So this strike, in a way, might just help some of the outliers who had way too much inventory sitting at dealerships, bring that down. But in the end, yes, we do think that some companies have built inventories in anticipation of the stoppage, and some of them have also probably shifted shipments to the West Coast ports. So the way we think about it is, if it goes on beyond a week or two, it could have a bigger impact because about 70% of auto part imports into the US come via these affected ports. And the European OEMs that operate in the US market are actually impacted more because they do have exposure to the East Coast and the Gulf Coast, where the port strikes, are impacted, and they rely on those locations because that's where their production facilities are. And then to your last point, yes, even parts, because for the US automakers, a lot of their parts that come from Canada and Mexico come by truck and rail. But if they are forced to fly those in, that could drive up costs.